lead into horrible emotional outpourings, and I don't know. I don't tend to trust that kind of phrase, particularly. So at the moment I would say, I don't know, I haven't got an answer. What does freedom of expression mean? Don't know who
I forgot. I rang you yesterday and it was sort of like, you know, I actually remembered to ring you to sort of say that I can't make it tonight, and now
well, I would have thought it's kind of changeable on
I'm going to have to deal with that in a minute.
Well, it seems to be, my views seem to be changeable.
Another lie.
The things that I'm doing.
The amount of lies that
at the moment I tend to see
spend.
freedom of expression in quite a
But I
negative.
tell you, the amount of lies that I tell because of my timekeeping is just.
That I find quite hard to justify.
Just, do you know what I mean? It's stupid. And it's not the fact that I'm telling lies, because they're only little white ones, but do you know what I mean? It's still taxing. You just have to make them sound believable. Like, what am I going to say to them? I told them that my car is playing up on me. I'm just going to sort of have a look. That was 20 minutes ago. They're going to be calling me down the radio saying, so I'm going to have to say, well, I went to a garage and I got chatting to this bloke and all the rest of it, and it's gone off the point. But yeah, sense of achievement is
I suppose writing, I write.
finding the time to do what I want.
I find writing is my most
Because I want to do it.
freedom of expression.
I'm expressing myself, whether it's to someone or
I
not.
suppose it's quite disciplined
I'm
still.
doing it, and that's what's important to me.
Do you think that
Otherwise I wouldn't be doing it, or otherwise I'd be trying to do it, but sort of running around, getting lost in, God, what time is it? Oh shit, I said I was going to do that. Oh Christ, I've got to written so and so.
Well, I mean, it's kind of using like phrase like freedom of expression with capital letters and little marks, apostrophe marks around it, and so automatically makes you think, God, how do I express myself? You know, most of the time you're unaware if you're expressing yourself anyway.
It's quite nice, isn't it? Sort of.
I guess that, you know, I express myself clearest when I'm teaching, which would be seen as freedom of expression, or when I'm at home with her, which probably not good to go as freedom of expression. But in terms of a feeling like I've got something to express and then finding a way to express it, I don't do a great deal of it. Other than writing mainly.
It's interesting to say for you see it in capital letters. And we get it 10 minutes or so. If you end up getting it, you get the answer. Like you phrase it 4 or 5 different ways. And one of the ways is kind of like because what we look for really is honesty. I mean, you suppose you get there's plenty of it. It's sometimes a bit more difficult. You just want an honest response.
Yeah.
You just want to read it in any way you can.
Yeah.
That's why we ask the question, because I think with other questions it'd be much harder to get. People will be so much more cagey, and rightly so.
Yeah. Because it's
much possible just asking them for their opinion.
Excellent. I really didn't want to smoke on.
Next sound check comes through. Okay, busy.
Alright.
But what we'd like to know is what's freedom of expression to you?
Freedom of expression. That you have the capacity to express yourself as you feel is right. Losing plot.
Is that what you want to say?
I'm lost. It's a bit of a big sort of big thing to sort of like.
say anything else. Do you think it's something, I suppose, that you determine yourself
freedom of expression? Something that you determine yourself? How much freedom you've got is granted. How much freedom you've actually got to express yourself. Because, I don't know, I don't think that you haven't necessarily got a huge amount of freedom to express yourself as you want to a lot of the time. Because there are certain restrictions that prevent you from doing that. Like from all over the place, you know, socially, whatever. Well, so kind of like now, I'm not free to say what I want. Like my mind says to me, and that places restrictions on my freedom of expression, because I don't know whether what I'm saying, like this situation is a situation where you're going to be like suspicious in some way, because like I don't know how you're going to use what I'm saying, so my free expression could be like used in another way by you. So it's not going to be me freely expressing something. It's going to be, so that makes me suspicious about me being free with expressing whatever I want to say. But it's like the thing that there's always some restriction from somewhere that stops you from being able to just, you know, say whatever you want to say or do whatever you want to do, because you've always got something else that's there. I mean, if you express, then it's like a two-way thing, because you can't just sit there and like express something to yourself. You express it to something, because it's a communication thing. And then whatever you express it to, put some restriction on what you're expressing, because you like adjust what you're saying according to like the circumstance that it's coming out in.
Spent 6 months researching everything, reading his
generally no. Sometimes I think I do.
Photographs.
But
I got to meet Stephen about
I don't know, if I sat and thought about it most of the time, I wouldn't be free. I wouldn't be expressing myself freely, because I'd be saying something
and he's like, yeah dude, I know.
that was kind of
It's really a love story. It's an emotional story that you're telling, and
censored in some way by my head,
phenomenal
so
woman
that
in her own right. You know,
would
no
be
one knows
appropriate
anything about
to
her.
the situation
but
that I was
it was
in.
about capturing
kind of
her
thing.
essence.
I
And it
don't
was
know,
about
but
trying to show
can you say
that
something just
obligation, that she
really
loved him and celebrated him, but I think sometimes she felt that the kind of support and commitment she had given him hadn't been returned.
No.
Do you have a favourite love story?
Freedom thing gets a bit problematic anyway, because like there's the thing where I don't know, freedom of expression,
and what people perceive as art. You know, for me, what they're selling or pushing and find galleries around the world and museums around the world may or may not necessarily be art. Conceptual work, what have you. I mean, some stuff obviously we like and some stuff we don't like.
Yeah.
Based on what certain people of affluence and influence say, it's supposedly art. So I don't buy into that whole scheme. I mean, I'm older now, I'm 45, so I think I'm more intelligent to understand that I don't really care. What I'm doing is I'm not at the moment trying to be an artist and be represented in galleries and gain their acceptance, because I don't need their acceptance. Actually, I need the acceptance of my wife and my children and things that mean something to me. So I'm not part of that scheme anymore. And
did you find it slightly overwhelming at the time when they were sort of doing the whole thing with Basquiat and
Jean-Michel and Keith are very good friends of mine, and sadly, they're not here. But to me, the art world killed Jean-Michel Basquiat in terms of how he was treated as a commodity, as someone to make money off of. And in the end, what's the trade-off? Yes, he is a highly respected artist with retrospectives at the Whitney, MoMA, all fine places, and Pompidou, and what have you, and probably here at the Modern, and well, he should. But the point is that he was manipulated, as certainly all artists are. I don't care if you're in what medium you're in. It's all the same. I mean, people are taking advantage of other people. They're taking opportunity. When I'm a young kid in the '80s, being a rebel graffiti writer, I don't understand these things. So I'm sort of along with the ride for the ride, so to speak. It was a big joyride, basically, the '80s for me, and it ended in a crash, a huge auto crash. Where you suddenly realize like it's not all that, or you're not all that, or because in the way it works in fashion is someone suddenly says no, and then like a trap door, the bottom falls out. It's like you hear the kind of sound and you realize like it's over. So I mean, for me, the art world, I had my ride, as I said. I learned a lot. Okay, I learned about art actually, and but for the moment in the year 2001, I'm on to way other more provocative means of expression, and I'm really touching the hearts of people where I feel, as a fine artist, yes, you may or may not make money, yes, you may or may not become immortal, but who really are you impressed? Who are you influencing actually, other than people who exchange money? Are young kids flocking to quote-unquote blue chip artists because they're inspired by them? No. So for me, this is my life, sadly, or fortunate, depending on how one wants to look at it. But the fact is, I did come from a street artist movement, and I have arrived here. So potentially, I see myself as a survivor, someone who can, I'm fluid, I've managed to move with shifting sands. And
had you, for example, with the Agnes B, something that seemed a real turnaround at the time.
Well, Agnes B as a person, forget her reputation as a, whatever her designer status is. She literally was a patron who back in 1988, 89 helped me to get back on my feet, just as a buyer of a couple of paintings, and it wasn't, and the relationship I have with Agnes is personal. She's a very good friend. That's not anything really to do with business.
Sure.
It's more about her generosity and her, what can you say, she enjoyed philanthropic type of deal. She enjoys spending her money on young artists, certainly from the graffiti community.
Do you think the French are perhaps a bit more open on that? When you go to like Paris and places, they have an awful lot more respect, say, for graffiti art and work.
Well, they have a more organized movement there in terms of what has been embraced by their alternative gallery spaces. That doesn't go on in every major city.
No.
It certainly doesn't go on in New York. It's probably may or may not be happening in the UK. I don't know. But no, they're unique in that way because they are French. They have a love of the arts. But my wife is French, and I met my wife in Paris. So, I personally have a connection to France. That's deeper than just then whatever. So
I could open that with my teeth, but you really wouldn't want to see
no,
it.
I don't want to see that.
My sister taught me how to do it.
But no, you know, so for me, I mean, I think I'm undoubtedly a very unique individual, you know, who's managed to find himself in good position. You know, like as much as I got carried through the art world and that experience and spit out in a way, you know, I still have managed to be in the right place at the right time, so to speak. You know, and I met cool people, and I base my profession around working with people that I love, actually. You know, that I have a relationship with, and I'm not a business guy. I'm not running around trying to make fast money.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I have a vision. I've always had a vision. You know, and a lot of it revolves around creating the family that I now have. You know, which I'll say again, I think is still, like, for me, the true success of my story.
How did you meet your wife then?
I went to Paris. You know, I had my experience with the Clash in 1981.
Yeah, I was going to say
right.
that.
So I did that, and having done that, escalated my, status or recognition to another level that I couldn't even imagine at that time, because people were really into the Clash, and sadly, when I first met them, I didn't even know who they were. Really. I mean, I kind of knew, but I didn't know much about them.
The right word at a time. Freedom of expression is the right to produce, publish, broadcast, generate and distribute to other people any material which you personally feel you want to, and which you personally feel you are doing in a way, in such a way that you are not entering into any kind of bad faith with other people unless it's deliberate. So freedom of expression for me is about being able to produce kind of anything you want, so long as you feel kind of honest about it yourself.
What about right? You feel that what rights? You say it's like the rights. The rights. See the big interesting thing like that.
Yeah, when I say right, I don't mean a kind of given right. By right, I mean I guess a kind of moral ideal. But in that sense, kind of what a government allows you to do. The right is something given to you usually by a state. So by right, I don't kind of mean something that you're kind of born with. I guess by right, in the sense I'm using it, I don't mean a right. I mean a permission. Yeah, freedom of expression is a permission. A state or a state either through like laws or through covert means.
And I just sit
and by state I don't mean a single thing, but all those different operations of the state.
And the conversation, okay, just here, listen. If I met him, for example, next morning with a different kind of people, I noticed that he behaves in a different way, and if someone asks the same questions, perhaps because he's a different person, it's much more important, or he thinks that the other person should like that he said the things the other side. So he did it, and I don't agree with this behavior. If you believe in, if you have your beliefs, and if you think that it's like this, should be like this, not because the other person thinks or knows that things should be like that. You don't need to be afraid to express what you feel. It's exactly what I think.
How do you express yourself?
Myself. I come from a wonderful place near the sea, and the most I really love the sea. And if I need to compare myself with something, it's with the sea, because nobody can stop the sea. Nobody can, even if you try to build something, in the sea will, if it's not placed there, the sea will destroy it, you know, and she just keep going. And one day, big waves, very, you know, like, I don't know the word in English. Very wild. I think that I'm too wild sometimes, you know. Wild. White? No. Wild. Yes, wild, yeah. And yes, I think that I express myself like the sea, same as the sea, yeah. And sometimes, you know, perhaps you are not going to understand why I express myself like the sea, because I born near the sea, I lived near the sea, you know, I grew up near the sea. So it's like, you know, you can find a peace in the sea, you know, you can feel very, very well in the sea. Just see it, and I don't know. Yes, I express myself like the sea.
Just about yeah, if you just like sit still for a minute, we do a couple of still shots, fade up from a blank screen. So you just look at the camera. Would you just look at the camera?
Do what?
Different shots.
Like look at different sides?
No,
You just look at the camera.
Alright.
This is just to introduce
Okay.
on the video.
Alright.
How do you feel?
I know. It was difficult because I thought it was much more about something, not about by myself. You know? So that's why it wasn't difficult. The only problem was the English. I don't know if you understand most part. I tried. Yeah. Alright.
More than English people.
Yeah. If I could speak, you know, because there's some when I spoke about say, you know, I know so I can, you know, what can I say? For example, to identify myself, there are some key words that I can, you know, say. I think that I might do. Doesn't matter. It's done. No, it's alright. No, it's okay now. It's alright.
You say what you want to say.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
We finished?
Yeah.
That was brilliant.
Alright.
Very well.
Okay.
Right, first of all, just ask your name, really.
Well, you're asking my name now.
I mean, are you saying freedom of expression in an artistic sense, or just in a whole world?
We're just taking praise and seeing how.
Well, freedom of expression actually sounds like a club night to me. A club night. That would be a good name for a club night. But I don't know, I suppose you could like class the way I have my hair as freedom of expression. You know, I put sunflowers in my hair because I want to. If they look stupid, you know, to somebody else, I don't care, because personally when I look in the mirror I think they look cool. And that's how I see freedom of expression, which I don't think you get a lot of in England. Definitely not.
So is it, you look at it in a positive or?
Definitely. I think people should have more freedom of expression. They should, I don't know, you should be allowed to express yourself without having to worry about your peers, what people will think of you, whether it is in an artistic sense or in an everyday sense, no matter what. If you want to do something because you just want to do it, there doesn't have to be any sort of deep meaning behind it. You should be able to do it, but there's too many pretentious people. You can't do things without having some psychological reason. You know, I don't know. I just think the world's pretty screwed up about expression. Too many sheep. Far too many. Can't think of anything else.
Do you think there's a pressure to conform?
Definitely. As soon as you're born, you have to conform. You're taught how, from your parents, if you've got laid back funky parents, then you're on a better sort of angle. If you've got parents like strict Catholic parents, like my mum was brought up in a strict Catholic way, and my dad was like out stealing cars when he was young. You know, they're pretty unusual to have together. But they've brought me up in a very sort of individual way somehow, even though my mum her family was like very conformed, very mass every Sunday, confession. My mum has never forced me to go, to church or anything, and my dad has never my dad was brought up on a council estate, he's never sort of taken me that way. You walk down the street and people are just conforming in the way that you walk, in where you're going.
Myself or the venue?
Well, how long have you been here yourself?
I've been here for a year, give or take a month or two.
What sort of stuff do you do here?
We do food, and we do parties downstairs, and we do gigs, and we do events of varying descriptions.
So how do you incorporate the variety of influences in your work?
Variety of influences in my work?
Like music and stuff like that?
Really, with just a varied events programme. That's pretty much all I can do. We try and book across a range of genres and different shows, and we incorporate art into what we do as well. And I think really that's pretty much the best way we can do that.
Where are you from?
I'm personally from the Peak District, a place called New Mills, between here and
How did you end up in Manchester?
I used to do parties here before I had the job, and I migrated to Manchester soon after I got the job.
What most inspires you? Inspires what you do?
Probably other clubs around the world, and how the Golden Poodle in Hamburg is a huge influence for a lot of the things that we do here, both their approach to art and programming.
Do they have like a similar setup to what you have here?
You could say that, yeah. A little bit smaller, but yeah, similar.
What do you like most about your work?
Essentially, amongst other things, I get paid to listen to music in a club, and you can't really beat that.
What have been the best bits of your career so far and the worst bits?
Worst bits are the late nights, early mornings. Best bits include parties that we've done with people like Floating Points, and seeing some of the local resident DJs downstairs on the big sound system, which is always good.
What's your favourite thing at the moment?
Favourite thing?
Yeah, like ice cream or food.
Favourite thing at the moment? And that's an obscure question.
What music are you listening to at the moment? Anything in particular?
I'm listening to a lot of different stuff at the moment. I've just picked up a release on a friend's record label, Rough Cuts No. 9.
What's it called?
Rough Cuts No. 9, and that's particularly great. That's what I've been listening to most recently.
Right, I've got one question for you. What does freedom of expression mean to you? Take a bit of time to
Is this as an artist or as a citizen? As an individual. I think it's a notion about distribution. Really, it's about being able to distribute ideas or materials or any notion just out into the culture at large, really.
You see it when, I suppose you said, personally, like, as an artist, and first of all, personally, how does it make you feel that term being expressed? Does it make you feel happy? Does it make you feel sad? Or do you feel that it's alive? What do you feel? Your reaction?
I think, for a start, like the reason why I kind of differentiated that, whether as an artist or as a citizen or whatever, is often used as a term around citizenship, and it's like that there being a flip side to this idea of freedom of expression in a democracy, and that flip side being responsibility and some moral responsibility. And it's like I have certain doubts about expressing morality of any sorts in art.
So when you hear the phrase, that if you don't immediately think, you're free to do what you want to do?
That's still not in our culture particularly, no. There are various examples of artworks or artists or whatever who would get persecuted for following their right to express what they wanted, what they honestly believed, or what they truthfully wanted to represent or show or put out into the culture.
You can't go into a shop and say, oh, I'd like to buy a phone stick to a hippo or whatever. You have to make it yourself. So they're all like biology's Mr. Gadget, squirreling away in their shed, creating these things. So some of them, the last night, Bill, who made this fantastic discovery about hippos, he had a hydrophone attached to two sticks that's wrapped around a hamster run, yeah, it's a hamster run at the end. It was a hamster run. There's another scientist on last night was using a pair of his mother-in-law's tights stretched over a very important piece of kit that costs £500,000 that normally tests vibrations on jumbo jets. So they're all sort of cobbled together from all different things. And the vervet monkeys, I was using a garden ornament because there have been no leopards in Mombasa for 20 years, so I had to go and get this garden ornament to show them. And then when I was doing the hawk, I had a broken kite. Actually broke halfway through the experiment. I was thinking this isn't going to work, but it still did work. So
you know what occurs to me? You're talking about a lot of exotic animals. There'll be people at home now thinking, well, I talk to my dog or cat every day, and they understand every word, and I can understand that. I can understand noises that they make too. Is that a version of the same thing? Because some people say they absolutely understand. Dogs bark for a certain thing, or cats meow, or they sound different. They can have a dialogue.
Well, we didn't do pets in this, so we just did about animals speaking to each other. But I do know that dogs, for instance, and the reason why they're man's best friend is because we have a really fantastic ability to read each other's emotions and communication. So whether you are